Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So we heard that you guys are really into interactive and stimulating things, but we also have to deliver informational things. So we're gonna keep it pretty spicy. So our session is called From Disasters to Hope, showcasing TCYA's model of disaster relief. Right? Recognizing like TCYA, the way we serve, a lot of it is centered around caring for those who have been impacted by disasters. We want to do 3 things with you guys today. 1, we're going to tell you some stories. 2, we're going to share some like ideas with you all. And then 3, we're going to give you some skills and like some thoughts. So a little bit about myself. I serve as TCYA's representative to the UN. So principally engaging with people at the international level, sharing about TCYA's work. That's me. And then here's Tiffany.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. So I'm a project specialist and I do a lot of the development work and partnerships to do with international relief.
Cute. So we got these cute little title slides, but we really know what's important is that we keep your attention span. Yeah? All right, so throughout this presentation, it's our hope that you stay engaged with us, that it's interactive, that there's moments of intrigue and excitement, okay? If you find that you're getting sleepy, feel free to stand up, walk around. It's a pretty casual class, okay? Now, we're gonna start with Tiffany giving you guys an imaginative exercise. So I know it's super early in the morning. We're gonna ask you to close your eyes at some point, but don't fall asleep on us. We got cool things.
Okay, great. So making a start. So this is a story setting the scene about what we do and what happens to the people that we actually serve on the ground. So close your eyes, but if you're gonna fall asleep, don't close your eyes, just think, all right? So if you can, close your eyes. If not, that's fine. So the story actually is about a true person. So imagine that you just went home for summer break. Okay, so you've just started in your first year of college. For many of you, maybe getting close, but maybe not. You just went home for your summer break, and it was your mom's birthday. You woke up in the morning, your mom was like shaking you awake. She tells you, and you thought she's shaking you awake because it's her birthday and you guys are gonna go celebrate. But the first thing she tells you was, get your stuff, get your bags, we gotta go. So you thought to yourself, like, why? Like, what's happening? And she opens the window, and that's where you saw jets flying in from another country, and then the air raid started. When the air raid started, you grab your bags, you help your brother pack. Your brother's a little younger, he may be 9 years old. You help him pack, and then you stood there. It was your whole life. You've lived in this place for 17 years. It was everything that you owned. What do you pack? How do you pack? You know, you had your dogs. You have 2 dogs, very cute, a very big dog and a very little dog. And then you started packing. You can only carry whatever you can carry with you. And then you left. Standing in the streets, there were people screaming, people crying. Things were falling everywhere. Buildings were collapsing. You stood there and your mom said, get on the ground. And you crawled. You keep crawling, and you got to your friend's shelter. In the shelter, you saw a lot of your friends, but you've never seen them the same way you've ever seen them because they all looked scared. And there was 10 of you in this little shelter, this little basement, and you were there for 10 days. In these 10 days, your mom asked, should we stay or should we go? And you thought about this question. Do you leave your whole life behind? Or do you wait it out? It's 10 days. Maybe I can go for another 10 days in this shelter. But then your mom made the decision that it was time to leave. So you get to a train station, and this train station was packed, full of people, like just so many people. You've never seen so many people in a train station before. And then your brother is a little shorter. You lose him for 10 seconds, even less than that. But you don't know how long, because for you, it felt like years. You found your brother, you grabbed him, and you told him, like, stay with me. Make sure that you stay with us. And then you get shoved into a train. Where this train is going, you have no idea. All you knew was that you're going somewhere possibly safe. It was very packed, and then the train started moving. When the train started moving, you looked out the window, and you saw your brothers waving at the people at the station, but you saw their faces, the faces of despair, because your brother didn't understand. He thought it was a cool trip, but for the people standing at the station, they had lost all hope because they could not get on the train. You turned up at a country, Poland. You've actually been there because you've been studying there, but everything felt so different because now you're relying on other people's help to get through the day, to find a place to live. But that night, you change into your pajamas. You saw your brother changing into his pajamas and sleep on a real bed. And that's when you knew that although how hard it is, your new life is about to start and you will be able to get through this. Okay, great. Thank you very much for sharing your imagination. So this is actually a real story of one of our volunteers. And his family, so mom, himself, and his brother, actually fled from Poland after the Ukrainian war. This is a story that he told us, but when he was telling the story, it wasn't about despair. It wasn't about sadness, but actually, the story ended with hope. Because when he saw his brother wearing pajamas, he knew that it's going to be tough, but they'll make it through because they're now in a safe place. So these are some of the things that when we serve people, how do we understand their background, what they've been through? So thank you very much for doing this exercise with me.
Great. So now we're going to continue on with, now that we have set the scene, this is one of the ways in which people experience disasters. We also know that we sometimes wear a tough mask when disasters happen, right? We're just going through the motions, we're experiencing it. And so today we want to translate the experience for you of how we as TCYA help people go from like, this is fine, to truly feeling that things will be fine. And with that, we'll start with TCYA's principles of disaster relief. How many people know our principles of disaster relief? Show of hands. Whoa, all right, that's what's up. Anyways, before we go into this section, I want to pause us and do a little stretch break because I know we had our imagination exercise. It was a lot of closing eyes. So if you guys want to get up with me and just stand. I know you guys did the ropes and like you had tea break, so maybe tea break is like leaning in. So if you want to like just do some stretching, do whatever you want, you know, like up on stage, we're doing some of this, you know, like, and then there's like head rolls, so you can like roll your head this way, and then that helps get some of that like ache out of your neck. I don't know if you guys are old enough to have aches in your neck yet. Then you can like tense up your shoulders, let them back down, tense up your shoulders, let them back down, yeah. And then like just shake everything out. You can like spin in circles, you know, do whatever you want. It's your stretch break, and then you can do things with your legs too. Okay, cool. Anyways, we're gonna keep going. So with this, we have 5 key principles, right? And this is the way TCYA ensures that no matter where we show up, whether it's Poland, it's in Haiti, it's here in the United States, that we operate off these 5 different areas. Yeah. And with this, we have the first one, which is timeliness, right? If something happens to your home, something happens to your family, you don't want volunteers showing up 6 months later and saying, hey, we heard you were impacted, we want to help you, right? You want that help right now. Then we have directness, which is really getting directly to the people instead of us working through like 15 different people and hoping that our help gets to them, right? We want to show up and give the work and give the material to the person directly through our own hands. hands. Then we have prioritization, right? So making sure that if an entire country is impacted, where are the most needed places for support and help? Where are the places that no one else is taking care of? Let's go there, right? And then we have respect and practicality, right? So we need to respect local cultures, customs, religions, faiths, and we also need to ensure that anything we give is truly useful for them. So those are our principles, and we're going to go into storytelling time now. So with disaster relief, our experiences are deeply personal, right? We've been involved in Tzu almost now for 25 years. And so in those 25 years, we've done a lot of disaster relief work, and we want to share a couple stories with you guys, and I'll pass it over to Tiffany.
Okay, great, thank you. So back to the story about Tim, who was the person that you were imagining before. So this is actually quite recent. 2 years ago, on 24th of February, the war broke out in Ukraine. And at that time, more than 10 million refugees from Ukraine left the country and went to nearby countries. So nearby countries, the biggest one being Poland, because it was part of the EU. So a lot of the refugees felt it was a very safe place to be. And so this started my more than 7 months in Poland. So I was dispatched roughly a month after the war began. So the first team had actually arrived. The first team made of a lot of volunteers from the European region. But because the war was continuing and the scale was so big that I came from Taiwan and I was dispatched there. At first, I thought I was going for 2 weeks. I ended up being there for 2 months in that first stint. And during that time, you saw a lot of people. You felt a lot of different emotions, and it was very intense. But the first thing we did was we tried to find out what they really needed. It was very hard because people in Poland speak Polish. The refugees, they spoke either Ukrainian or Russian. We don't speak either, so, and our volunteers mainly spoke Chinese. So it was a mixture of languages, but through a lot of Google apps, so we use Google Translate, we were able to actually communicate. So what are their needs? You know, everyone has basic needs, which is food, shelter, and what's the last one? Food, shelter, and non-food items? Yeah, like so material needs, right? So at first we started distributing like non-material needs, but we realized that, they have to carry it. So like 16 kgs of food for a mom with 2 kids is not great, right? So we thought, what can we do after that? And that's when we started doing cash cards. So our distributions ran very long. We got up in the morning at roughly 6 in the morning. We have to get to the distribution site at 7. Our distributions were not like a lot of distributions. Who here has experienced a TCYA distribution? Good. That's awesome. Yeah, so our distributions are not like, give you food, then you leave, right? So our distributions are more like, we sit down, we share this moment together, then you leave. And actually, a lot of people who came were like, why are you not giving out like stuff to us? You know, like, are you guys lying to us? And like, we had people who were lining up outside, were like screaming at us. But when they actually attended our distribution, they were very touched. And it helped a lot of them actually through that hard time because they got a lot of relief. They got a lot of aid. But what they didn't get was that emotional and spiritual support. And it was really important. One of the things we talked about was respect. So how do we respect different cultures, different religions? And one of the things that we did was we sang Ukrainian songs. Songs about their homeland, songs about their future, and it was a way to connect us to them. And we learned Ukrainian. So one of the few words, that I learned, well, actually, I only know four or five words in Ukrainian, and it was like "Sidайте, будь ласка," which means "sit down, please." and then Doble Ranok, which means good morning. So all I do every day is like, I welcome them, Doble Ranok, Sedajte Belaska, please sit. Doble Ranok, Sedajte Belaska. But that simple language was so important because it was their culture, it was their language. And I think that's one of the things that is different about Tsuji is when we work with people, it's not just about just giving you stuff or like, giving you aid, but it's actually respecting the person and respecting their religion, respecting their faith, language, culture. Everything is about respect. When we went there, actually, we decided where to distribute, what areas is best for distribution. And one of the things we realized is like, okay, let's hold a distribution at the train station because that's when they arrive. And so at the train station, we would have a counter. We worked with our partners to have a counter where when people came, we were able to support them right away. To make sure that when they landed in a foreign country, they have the assistance that they need and the support that they need. I think the biggest learning for me during this time was that there's a lot of needs out there. There's different needs. But how can we not say they're all refugees, but look at every person as individuals and to be able to help every person as an individual? And that I think that's what the principles are there for, is to go through the list and say, hey, this person needs this person may want to be supported on this issue, and be able to help them in a way that is holistic and wholesome.
Thanks, Tiff. I know we'll go on to the next slide and maybe speak briefly to the 9.2大地震, the Taiwan earthquake of September 21st.
This is actually one of the reasons why I joined Tsuji. So in 1999, there was a big earthquake. You guys are probably not born yet. So it was a very big earthquake, and actually a lot of Tsuji members joined at that time. The big earthquake happened in Taiwan, and whole cities were pretty much collapsed. A lot of people died, and it was very much the biggest disaster. Overseas, a lot of Tsuji members started donating money for 9.2. And at that time, Dharma Master Zheng Yan, she talked about how we can help communities locally and how can we strengthen people to make sure, like doing DRR, right? Disaster risk reduction. How can we reduce the risks before we meet them? And the reason why I brought this up was actually at the start of this year, a similar size earthquake happened in Hualien. So this was in February? Was it? Yeah, March. Okay, this was in March. It was very scary. So I went to work, I was in the office, and then the earthquake happened. And at first, because Hualien has a lot of earthquakes, we all thought, we'll just, ride it out. Like maybe 10 seconds after the earthquake started, we're like, okay, this is not for riding out, we're gonna get under our tables. And then, so this is a boat where I work, and everything fell, like all the desk, everything was on the ground. So the first thing Tsuji started was making meals. The reason why we made meals, and this is all the Dharma masters at the boat, like we were straight, this was an hour after. We started making meals, not for a lot of the residents, but we're making meals for the frontline workers. So we started making bentos. Our staff actually started doing work. So what we did was we ran a center. So this is a center where we set up all the tents that you see there. And then I don't know if many of you know about the multi-folding beds. Yes? Yeah. So we started laying them out, and then people would be able to sleep overnight. This image I really liked. This was 30 minutes after the earthquake. and we set up outside. We set up all the tents outside because there was really big aftershocks, and we started dispatching people to different locations. And when we dispatched people to different locations, we were able to help the community in a way that it came from experience, right? Every year we've been learning about disasters. We've been dealing with disasters. And so as soon as these disasters happened, we were able to utilize our skills and dispatch and deploy into areas.
Love it. Thanks so much, Tiff. So you can kind of see like the way Tsuji's experienced disaster relief over the years has grown, evolved, and shifted, right? Like from the September 21st earthquake until now, the way we've been able to build our buildings has become more resilient, and the impacts haven't been that devastating. And as a result, we've been able to help more people and ensure less lives are lost because of things like earthquakes, right? So I'll go into my sharing segment, but before that, I know we're at the 1/3 mark of our session. That means you survived 30% of our class. And I want to give us a moment just to take a stretch break. So if you want to all stand up again, and we're going to do some stretches. This time it's more instructional, okay? So I want both hands reaching up as high as you can, to the skies. And then you're going to go all the way down to the ground. Stretch out all of those ankles, those calves. All right, now stand as wide as you can, okay? Now go back down. And then you're going to stretch to your left. And then you're going to stretch to your right. And then now with your hands, you're going to windmill all the way up and then all the way back down. And then do it reverse. So windmill the other way up and then all the way down, okay? And then come back up all the way to the sky and then all the way back down. All right. And that is our stretch break. How are you guys feeling? Yeah, all right. So we're going to keep on keeping on. So for me, I joined TCYA in 1999, similar to Tiffany, and one of the first experiences I had with TCYA was doing disaster relief. And we would do tornado disaster reliefs, right? So this is a photo of like some of the homes in the Midwest where like overnight, freak tornado would rip through and just tear apart all of these homes that people were living in, right? Usually the tornado sirens would go off, so they would either hide in their basement or they would like go to one of their friends' homes that had basement shelters to try to stay away from the tornadoes. And once they would emerge from their shelters, they would find that their entire homes were gone and missing and devastated, right? And it was from this sort of experience that I quickly grasped this sense that TCYA often teaches about impermanence, right? That nothing is forever, and even if we work so hard to buy a beautiful home, like in a moment, Mother Nature could take it away from us, right? So there must be more to life than just accumulating material and developing wealth, right? But rather, I became inspired to say, oh, like life's meaning, the purpose of what we do here is to serve and help other people. And so disaster relief became a core and integral part of like my life journey in TCYA. Similarly, in 2016, here's a photo of James Sibour. We were hanging out together in Haiti after Hurricane Matthew ripped through Haiti. And a lot of the work we were doing was to work with local communities to take the homes that had been destroyed after the hurricane and work hand in hand to rebuild those homes. And it's this sense of wanting to power together community that I think is really exciting about how TCYA works and the disaster relief we do. And so for me, I really want to share a little bit about also how do we partner, right? Because TCYA doesn't do this work alone. We do this together with other organizations. How many of you guys have supported a Red Cross blood bank? Blood drive? Yes? Great. So I see a couple hands. Love that. One of the key ways TCYA collaborates before disasters to build resilience is to run blood drives and blood banks. It's where we invite the community to come and donate blood, right? And we work together with like Red Cross and a couple other groups to collect this blood. They'll store it. Why do we need that blood? Because oftentimes during disasters, people get hurt and they need a specific type of blood type to be able to be put back into their body and system, right? And so we run these blood drives as a way to support the community and allow for the community to give blood so that they in turn can ensure that during disasters, people don't get hurt, right? Similarly, at the UN, we do a lot of coordination with partners as well, right? And this makes sure that whenever there's a disaster, we share with our partners where we are, what we're doing, and in turn, what we can do to support their work. And then we have this sort of like dual link chain, right? And it's through partnership and working together that we're able to like really create better and stronger impact. And I think this principle of partnership is something that I hope you take away from our sharings today, whether it's in disaster relief or elsewhere. When you're thinking about running your own projects, when you're thinking about designing your own things today at the hackathon, right? How do you partner with other groups to create bigger impact? I think is one way that you can ensure that your project doesn't just rely on yourself and your friends, but rather you can bring in more people to come and support your work. And so I'll pass it over to Tiffany to share some of the other ways that we partner within disaster relief space.
Thanks, Steve. I think one of the biggest ways about partnership and the benefits about partnership is after a disaster, there's always so many people in need. And when we talked about, there's so many different needs as well, like, you might be good at doing the mental health sector side of things, I might be good at the material side of things, right? So you can't do everything. So that's why we have partners. One of the ways that we do partnership is our faith. A lot of times we don't enjoy talking about faith. We think, faith is something that is personal to us. We keep it within ourselves, right? But during a disaster, faith is something that's so important for those that are going through it. So they need community, they need some assurance, and often they find that with faith. So during COVID, one of the things we did was we partnered with a lot of faith organizations. It could be Catholic, it could be Christian, it could be Muslim, all these faiths, because they have a good understanding of the needs in the community, and they also have other volunteers that can pitch in. And when we work through faith, one of the things is like everyone has the same love, compassion, they want to help people. I think that's a core component of faith. And when we do that, when we utilize that, we are able to do a lot more. So I remember one time, there was an organization that approached us, and they're like, a Catholic organization, Chameleons. They're like, Tiffany, why does TCYA want to help us? We're Catholic, you guys are Buddhists. We don't really know each other. We've never seen each other. We've only talked over the phone. Why would you guys want to help us? And Dharma Master Zhen Yin tells us, she's like, well, faith is just the meaning of life. We look for different meanings of life, but this road actually all leads to the same path. It all leads to a path of service. It all leads to a path of love and compassion. So when I talked to the father, I said, hey, yeah, we might be of different faith, but we're all people of faith. And I think that's one of the ways that we really work on the local level after a disaster is look for friends. Like we have friends in the humanitarian sector, which like the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, but we also have friends in our faith space, which is the Catholic community, the Muslim community. And all in all, it's all about working together to build a better recovery and a better future.
Love it. Thanks, Tiff. So finally, we're going to our last segment, which is what are the skills that youth need to build in order to support disaster relief, right? Right now, earlier when I asked about your knowledge of TCYA's principles, there weren't that many hands raised, right? But now you all have that knowledge. But beyond knowledge, there's actions we need to take. There's things that we can train out to ensure that when we are in a disaster relief situation, we are helpful, we are supportive to the community in need, and that we are truly impactful. So I saw that there were some hands raised already that had been engaging in disaster relief. Is there anyone who wants to share some skills that you think are good and useful whenever you're in a disaster relief situation? Hands? I know I was given the input that everyone here is a little more on the shy side of things. Who's super shy? Show of hands? Yeah? Oh, love that. All right, who's normal shy? Not like super shy, just like regular shy. Yeah? Oh, love that. Who's like super extroverted? You can talk all day and like, I see like 1 or 2 hands. Let's
That's
go! Woo! All right, so I'm actually very shy. I'm someone who I rank on the introversion scale as a hyper introvert. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to talk to people. I hate public speaking. Whenever I public speak, my knees go like this. But after 25 years of being in TCYA has trained me to the point where I'm not only comfortable on a stage sharing stories, talking, and experiencing this public space with everyone, but I'm actually confident in it, right? I still, because I'm an introvert, will need time to recover, recharge my energy. Being around people doesn't give me energy, right? But I can comfortably do it, right? And that's one of the skills that TCYA has done. Who here, after a volunteering event, has been asked to share their feelings and thoughts about the volunteering event? Yeah, right? And it happens all the time, all around. It's TCYA's way to secretly train you guys to become better public speakers, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it. And then you blink and all of a sudden, one day, you're the one asking other people to share because you're the one leading that sharing exercise, right? And these are skills that over time, TCYA is training. So if you feel shy, if you feel like interacting with people, is scary, that's okay, right? Like we're young, we're here to learn. We're gonna bedazzle our faces with lots of different skills, right? So I'll pass it over to Tiffany first to share some of the skills that from her lived experience are really useful for youth to build to ensure that when we have disaster relief opportunities, we can show up in a powerful way.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I'm also very shy, so yeah. On the shy scale, I'm like maybe a bit more further down than Steve. But I think one of the skills that I learned as a youth actually was being part of the TCYA community. Like we go to rest homes, we do children activities, and you get to interact with a lot of different people in your lives. And those interactions, however challenging they may be, sometimes very challenging, especially when you go to rest homes. Who here goes to rest homes? Elderly homes, I think you guys call it.
Nursing homes?
Nursing homes, yeah. All right, the British in me. Okay, great. And like you meet those grandpas that tell you the same story over and over and over and over again. Like every time you go, they tell the same stories. It's like very hard to work with them and have conversations with them, but you're learning these skills to work with different people, to talk to different people. And it's so important because when we went to, like, say, for example, Mozambique, when I was in Turkey, when I was in Poland, all these people like have different backgrounds, so they spoke different languages. But more than that, they could be elderly, they could be children, they could be teenagers, they could be people from all walks of life, but you can communicate because you've done that, you've been doing that when you were joining a lot of TCYA activities. Another thing I think is like, who here has had the experience of going to a volunteer activity and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing here? Yeah. And then like you might get like asked from this school to go and pick up this thing, and then another school's like, no, don't pick that up, pick that one up. And then you pick that one up, and then the school's like, no, don't do that, this thing, right? I'm sure we've all had this kind of experience. And you're like very lost. You're like, what is happening in this world? You know, like, why am I here? But, you know, this experience that you have actually really translate well into disaster relief because every space you go to, it is overwhelming with a lot of things to do. There is like, oh, you might want to do this work, but then, like things change all of a sudden and you're delegated to doing this thing. The ability to change on the spot and to say, hey, no, I'm just going to let this go. I'm going to go do this work is so important. And it's something that not a lot of people can do. A lot of people might get stuck. They'll be like, oh, no, but you asked me to do this. Why am I doing this now? But because of the experiences that we've had, I'm sure many of you have had already, that we are able to move on. And that's so important in the disaster relief, to be able to be flexible and adaptable to all the new situations that come up. And also having that resilience to do that. Because a lot of times we all spend time, who here has difficult sleeping in a new place? Okay, great, a few, yeah. But once you go to a lot of camps, a lot of conferences. You're in a new space all the time. And that flexibility in changing your lifestyle, your living conditions, also plays a big part. So in Poland, I was meant to be there for 2 weeks, was there for 2 months. At the end of the 2 months, there was a week where I could not find any hotel rooms to stay. So every morning, I would actually pick up my luggage, I would go to the office, and then I would look for a new Airbnb to stay in for that night. And it was like every day was different. But because I had the experience in working in a lot of TCYA spaces where we're staying at different locations, I managed to get good night's sleeps and managed to be able to continue the work. And I think that's a few of the skills that I think I've picked up over the years, doing TCYA work and really translating well into the humanitarian space.
Love it. Thanks, Tiff. Okay, so there's some more skills we want to ensure that you guys are cognizant that we want to build out over the years of our TCYA experience. But we have hit our final stretch break. And so we are now at 2/3 of the way through our class. How are you guys feeling? Still energized? Yeah? Okay, we love that. So we're going to give you a little more energy. Before our stretch break, I want to note one of the most important skills that TCYA has is that trains you to do is your ability to orate in large spaces, right? To speak without a microphone, right? So, what are we going to do? Before we stretch, we're all going to exercise shouting very loudly, okay? So, on the count of 3, I want you all to stand up and shout as loud as you can and fill this space with energy, excitement, and noise, okay? On the count of 3. 3, 2, 1, plug your ears. All right, thank you. Now let's stretch. So same thing, if you'd like to stretch however you want. The bathrooms are over there if you need to use the restrooms. It's a very casual and chill class. Stretch however you like, you know. You got the little lunges. You have reaching up to the sky. You can sit on your chair and stretch too. Check this out. There's also chair stretches like this. Yeah, hit the bathrooms. It's very important. Also, if you need to drink water, that's good too. You can also walk around in a circle, you know. This is a good lap right here. We're doing stretches. It is really great. Okay. And then more stretching, more stretching. Got the energy. We got some screaming going on. It's a good time. Give you another minute or two to stretch before we carry forth. How's that scream? I'm awake. I'm really awake. Yeah.
Oh, that is intense stretching
Yeah.
there.
That's called the stretch of youth. I could never. I get halfway down and I'm nope, nope.
Maybe not. Don't try that. That's all.
This is, what is this? It's the polka, right? Dun, 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 dun,
Russian
dun.
dancing.
Yeah.
Ukrainian dancing. Oh.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna slowly make our way back to the chairs. And we'll finish out this session, guys. All right. We love a good stretch break. So I hope you guys enjoyed a little time in between for our final chunk. I think the second skill I want to speak to, outside of just being able to speak very loudly, and the reason we have that is sometimes we go to a place that doesn't have microphones, right? I know Tiffany has been in Mozambique, myself in Haiti, Kenya. There are spaces where there's no technology available, there's no sense of microphones, and so in order to really share your ideas and thoughts with other people, you need to speak loudly, right? Now we're all shy, I recognize that, but definitely learning to be able to project your voice will be a powerful skill when you need it, right? You can speak softly most of the time, but when you need it, to be able to have it you'll love having that skill. Second thing is being able to bring back order from chaos, right? Just now, everyone was out and about. We were able to bring things back to a normal sense, and I think that's definitely a skill to exercise. In addition to this, I think what you're doing as CISAO leaders right now is so important, right? We're programming, we're planning events, we're inviting friends to come to things, we're coordinating. All of these efforts are key pieces to your ability to do disaster relief better, right? Knowing when to be a leader and knowing when to be those who serve, right? And then Tzu also teaches a third leadership model, which is servant leadership, right? We might not be the person making all of the high-level decisions. We might not be the person coordinating all of the work. But in our own little station, there are things that we can do to step up as leaders to help support the broader project, right? And I think all of these skills are things that you're learning as CISAO. So our encouragement to you is to continue to do all of the great things that you're doing at CISAO and recognize that they have a greater meaning than just your ability to do the work right then and there. Right? Similarly, within the UN space, we're constantly looking for skills of young people as well, right? Like we look to build 3 types of skills. The first being public speaking, right? So if you're like, oh, Steve, like you say like you're a shy person and like now you do public speaking. How did you get all that experience? A lot of it was through our engagement with the UN, right? And this coming summer in July, we're opening up a new summer camp for those who are interested in global affairs, the UN, sustainable development, all of these like cool high-level issues. If you want to come to New York and learn more about that, be trained in public speaking, be trained in how to network that space, we're holding it for you. Right? At the same time, at a local level, there are really cool things that you guys can be doing too, right? Like I know part of this conference is to have a hackathon and to design these projects. Well, we're gonna have to bring these projects to life, right? And that action-oriented, like creating the outcomes from idea to outcome, those are all skills that really help when it comes to disaster relief. But I think one of the most beautiful skills that Tzu gives us, right, is like a sense of like self-confidence and self-worth, right? So often I think we live in a society where your worth is determined by like your academic grades, right? Your ability to make a certain amount of income, your relationship to those in power and fame, right? But when you come to Tzu, I think there's an alternative narrative that we provide to you, that as young people, you're intrinsically loved and you're intrinsically worthy. Why? Because you're someone of good heart and character that wants to help others. And because you are someone like that, we want to support you, we want to care for you, and we want to see you succeed and grow. Right? So Tzu does a really good job of like giving you that skill of self-worth and self-love, right? But as important as that skill is, if you don't ask for help when you need it, right, it becomes very hard to succeed. So similarly, when you're in a disaster relief situation, if you're overwhelmed, if you're super stressed, and you don't ask for help, people might not pick up on the fact that you need help, right? Similarly, in school, if you have a lot of exams going on right now, and at the same time you're trying to juggle your CISAO activities, and you're so stressed that you're becoming anxious, right? If you don't know how to ask for help in those moments, you're gonna suffer, right? So one of the most important skills to train is your ability to ask questions and ask for help so that people can really come in and support you. And so with that, I'm now going to segue brilliantly, because I'm so smart, to our Q&A session, where you get to ask questions, yeah? So we've shared a little bit. There's so much more we could talk about, for sure. You've had your 3 stretch breaks. Do you have any questions, right? This is our time to kind of chat together. I'll run the mic, just raise your hand. Or if you want to practice oration, you can shout your question at us from across the room. Anything's on the table, right? You can ask us about, like, we've been in Tzu for 25 years, right? What does it mean as a young person to be in Tzu for so long? What keeps us here, right? You can ask us about our favorite veggie dish that has been served to us at Tzu, right? We can talk about Tiffany's favorite ice cream flavor. Anything's on the table. You have 10-ish minutes to have Q&A with us. Anything on the table? Any questions? Yeah, we love. All right. Do you want to practice oration or? Oration! Let's go! Favorite aspect of public speaking. We have a second question as well. We'll take multiple at the same time. Oration or mic? Ah, very cool. So we'll take those two questions. I can start and then Tiff? Cool. So, favorite part of public speaking, I think, is the ability to share what I love with other people, right? In that, when I was younger, I was really shy and I had a lot of thoughts and feelings, but I didn't have a way to express that to other people, so other people couldn't experience what I was thinking or feeling, right? I remember being in an elevator once with a high-level UN representative when I first started my job at TCYA. And it was my job to network and engage with people, but I was shy, right? So I stood in that elevator and it went up 42 floors and I got off on the 41st and he got off on the 42nd, right? And the whole way up, I said nothing. But in my head, I just had all these thoughts. I'm like, this guy's so cool. I want to ask him about what's happening in the Security Council right now. I want to ask this. I want to tell him about this. I want to ask him what he's doing for youth, right? I had all these thoughts and feelings, but I couldn't share it, right? Because I didn't have that skill. I was too shy. And I play back that moment in my head with a lot of regret, right? In that, if I was just a little more brave in that moment, if I had the skill then, what could have happened? What could I have learned, right? So for me, public speaking, I think the joy is being able to have that skill to say, this is what I feel, this is what I'm thinking, and I want to share that with you, right? And to have that skill and moment and space and privilege to share, I think brings me a lot of joy. And then for me, the fastest time that we've been able to deliver aid was a day and a half. So we had a tornado hit Kentucky, and then we heard about it that night. And then the next morning, we had a coordination call with our regional headquarters in Chicago, and then we drove down and we met with the local team of Red Cross. And then that next morning, we invited about 300 some families to come and get the aid. So it was a day and a half. That was the fastest record-breaking time. But I know in New York, during Hurricane Sandy, we were there day of, right? The hurricane hit, and that night we were cooking food to begin preparing for the families thereof. But I'll pass it over to Tiffany.
Yeah, great. The first question, for me, it's about challenging myself. I'm very shy. I don't really enjoy public speaking. But it's that journey of learning that I really enjoy and being able to tell stories for those who can't. I think that's another part of public speaking is a lot of the times, not everybody gets to go to the countries we go to or experience what we experience. But being able to speak about them, to be able to share their stories is something that I think is very, for me, it's definitely something that I feel really touches my heart. In terms of the second question, it depends whether it's locally or internationally. So locally wise, the fastest that I've been on a disaster site and give aid was 6 hours. That's in New Zealand. We actually just drove and then we had blankets and everything. We drove down there, we were able to distribute immediately. The quickest that I've been outside, on an international level, was 3 days. That was across the ditch in Australia. So I live in New Zealand. Across the ditch in Australia, we were there within 3 days, or 2.5 days, and then we started distributing on the third day.
Very cool. We'll open it up again for questions. Love it. Would you like to practice oration or mic? Yeah, of course.
What motivated you to join TCYA and how have you grown since then?
Oh, fun question. Thank you so much. Any other questions, or we'll take that one first? Oh, yes.
COVID. How did COVID really affect your TCYA journey?
Love it.
We have one more here.
Third. Why did we join TCYA?
UN.
The UN. Oh, okay, cool. Fun questions. All right, Love these questions. Thank you for the questions. They're so sweet. All right. So first one is joining TCYA, how have we grown, right? Second one, COVID, and then why the UN. Okay, cool. So for me, joining TCYA, I was tricked. I was duped and swindled into TCYA through food, right? So my mother would cook every Saturday and Sunday, delicious food, and then she'd take these giant pots of food into the car trunk. And I'd be like, Mom, I want to stay home and watch TV. Can I have some of that food? Just like save me a portion, right? She'd be like, no, honey, you can make Kraft mac and cheese yourself at home, right? Or you can come to TCYA and eat this delicious food. So of course, like I can't reach the microwave. I'm too short. I was like 7 years old. So I would go to TCYA with her. So I was tricked into TCYA in that way. But I think the growth has been phenomenal, right? I think TCYA is a space where you can fail and you can fail freely, right? Like this, like for example, like if you've never asked a question in a public fora like this before, right? It can be very intimidating. But you know, no matter what you say in this room, you're in a room of peers who care about you, who support you, and want you to succeed, right? So even if you fail, it's not that devastating, right? That way, the next time you're in a scarier space, maybe it's a business professional meeting, and you want to really ask a question, you can draw on your experiences from TCYA and say, I've already done this before, I know how to do it, right? So for me, TCYA has been a space of constant failure, learning from that failure, and growing from it, right? So like my growth in personal speaking has been that where like I don't feel as shy, right? Same thing, networking. I hate networking. Like, what does it mean to shake hands with a stranger? I don't want to touch your hands. But then, like, because I've been in the UN now for like 13, 14 years since being a volunteer there, like, I know how to do it, right? So when I really need it, I can get it. And then I think another part has been like my community, right? Like I have such a beautiful community of friends now around the world where anywhere I go, I have a bed to crash, I have a place to hang out, I have friends to see, and I have a place to be. And that sense of global belonging, I think is something that as you continue to be in TCYA, as you continue to be in these national and international conferences, I hope you get to feel that same thing, which is that we're all part of this one giant family and we're really here to like move the work forward. And so because of that, we support each other and we care for each other. COVID was a really weird time. I think TCYA became very successful within the UN space during the COVID era because we adapted really quickly to online conferencing. We hosted webinars, we hosted engagements in a digital space very successfully, and that was on a professional level. I think we've struggled at a community level in the COVID era because for a lot of TCYA's focus and priority, it was focused and centered around two things, right? The first was the delivery of aid to frontline communities, right? And a lot of that work was centered around our sugu-subuos. And at the same time, it was a transition, an effort to transit towards a more digital ecosystem so we could still have engagements, right? But TCYA's unique strength and its unique challenge both showed itself during COVID, which is we're deeply intergenerational, right? Like, I loved TCYA because I got my grandmas and grandpas, I got my elders, I got my mothers and fathers of TCYA ecosystem, I got my little brothers and sisters, I got myself and my peers. We're such a giant generational continuum within TCYA. But some people don't know how to use technology, you know? So like, you can't get that same feeling that you would have within the TCYA ecosystem. And I think we're still trying to adapt to that even to this day, right? And so I think that's been a large part of the COVID challenge. At the same time, I think COVID has shown a rise of mental health challenges, right? Like I'm sure sitting among you, you will have peers and friends that are going through things, you know? It's a hard life. Like being young in this day and age, when we have the internet, when we're out here being hyper overstimulated by internet, it's a challenge, right? Like, so people are suffering, we're struggling with mental health. And I think that's something that TCYA has really worked to address over the past couple of years. And we need to continue to scale up to make sure that we're not missing anybody as they suffer silently, but rather you have a space to heal. And then for UN side, I think the UN's really exciting for me because it's the place where the world comes together to ask the question, how can we make the world a better place? And we get to work day in and day out with people who are movement makers, change makers, and really powerful individuals shaping the world. And we get to be in community with them and say, we are doing it too. How can you help work with us? Yeah.
Okay, great. So similarly to Steve, I was tricked in by food. So Sigu Sibos make this really good mantou. So, and that was like the highlight of my life at that time. It's like I go every Saturday and I get to eat mantou. My parents would refuse to cook on that day. So, you know, that was my only source of good food. So that's how I got into Tzu Chi. But what really made me stay was it gave me an opportunity to like exercise my compassion and the want to help people. I'm sure many of you have the same. That's why you're here. It's like you want to help people, but where do you do it? How do you do it? And I think Tzu Chi has really, really helped me to do that, starting from a smaller scale and moving up to a bigger scale. And also, how can I make myself a better person? I think that's the journey of Tzu Chi, is not only are you serving people, but through the service that you're learning along this way, like to be a better speaker, to be better at planning, to be a better person overall. And I think that's the journey that I continue to be on, and that really inspires me to be part of this community. In terms of COVID, actually, my biggest life change was during COVID. So I was working in New Zealand. I grew up there, and then I made the choice to go back to Taiwan to work for Tzu Chi. And it was just during COVID, so I left New Zealand on 2020, which was when COVID started. And I think the challenges of COVID is our 5 principles. One of them was directness. We want to personally give aid to somebody, but how do you do that when you can't, you know? Yeah, you can't get into the country, you can't physically give aid to somebody. And I think that's where there was a lot of growth in Tzu Chi as well. Like, how do we overcome these challenges? And one of the things was through partnerships. Working with partners that we have been talking to in the UN space, instead of advocacy, what we're doing now is the humanitarian space. We're working on the ground in areas where we might never have worked together on. So one of the projects I was doing was in India. Never been to India, but we were working consistently with our partners in India to provide aid in a way that's safe during COVID. The challenges that we face is how do we do that and have that connection still with the people that we're serving? And I think that's something that we're still working on. Is we see a lot of different connections, but this connection, through the challenges that we face, we need to deepen these connections and making sure that in a time where we are able to meet each other, to have this deep connection, so when we can't, we are able to continue and to be able to serve. The UN space, I got into the UN space actually through Steve, and when I came here for the first time. And I think the UN space is a lot of good people trying to do a lot of good things. And I think that's why it's so important and so special to be in this space, and why I really enjoy being in this space.
Awesome. So we're at time. We're being kicked off the stage. We'll be around for the next hour during the workshop. If you have questions or thoughts or ideas around your projects that you want to come chat with us, we're more than happy to scheme. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, your energy. Please continue to be brave, push yourselves to fail exciting ways, and then learn and grow from those experiences and get to know each other more. Thank you so much.